this is a real podcast. You know why? Because it's the Loft Party podcast. I'm just saying.
The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times of Good People Company, the host, or its sponsors.
Just not getting it.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times of Good People Company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. Hey out there in podcast land, I'm your host, Rio, and welcome to the Loft Party Podcast, episode 86. When I grow up, I want to fly. Superheroes, secret agents, and fairy tales, they play a huge role on us as kids, but how do they shape us? How do they shape who we become in the future? Why do these stories stick with us so much? But before we get started, let me introduce today's panel. I have one of my returning champions, Dave Elliott, Big Dave as we like to call him. He is the owner of C&P Construction. And I have Adrian Lewis. He is the founder of Path to Vision, an organization empowering our youth. And I have, you know her as the anonymous female, but today she says we can tell you who she is. I have Jacqueline McDaniel. She is in the financial sector. And
I don't go by Jacqueline.
I'm sorry. She wants to be less formal. She's Jackie McDaniel, aka
The mystery woman.
AKA Sister Jack for any of those out there listening.
Hello, Reese.
With that said, let's get on to important things before we get into important things. And of course, first thing is, so what are we drinking? Today, we're drinking a Pendergast. I was actually doing a Pendergast in honor of my normal returning champion, Chris O'Connor, but he's not here today. So, your loss, Buster. So 1.5 ounces of Rieger whiskey, 3/4 ounce of sweet vermouth, 1/2 ounce of Benedictine, 3 or 4 dashes of Angostura bitters. You put that in a glass over ice. You strain into a rocks glass without ice, and you garnish with a lemon zest, and you have a Pendergast. And with that, that takes us to what are we smoking? And today we are smoking the Padrón Series 1926, number 2 on 2017's top 25 cigar list. This is a strong smoke, but it's kind of sophisticated. You've got a lot of earthy texture. You got some kind of rich coffee bean, a little sweet accents, a little woodiness, a little fresh kind of black tea finish. Really good smoke.
I just smoked one the other day.
Yeah. Nicaraguan wrapper, binder, and filler. A little bit pricier per stick than we normally talk about, but treat yourself at just under 18, something like that a stick, generally not a bad smoke at all. So that brings me to today's RIP and kind of a mini topic. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but a lot of people at the panel may not know this guy. You may have heard of Chief Keef, but rapper out of Chicago. But this we're talking about is kind of his right-hand man. He came up with him, Fredo Santana. He died at 27 from kidney and liver failure. But the reason that I want to even mention this and kind of have just a few minutes of discussion about it is not just the fact that, he passed and he was making headway in the business. He had probably had almost a dozen mixtapes just from the past 5 or 6 years that were out on the market, and he was doing quite well on that touring circuit. But with the medical complications, really, from what I could tell, and definitely not saying anything to disparage those that have passed, but it may have been his own drug usage and prescription drug abuse that contributed to his passing. And it's tragic because not only did he have a promising career, but he he left behind just an 8-month-old son, and, just to be that young and to have him passed under those kind of circumstances, it just got me to thinking about, and he's not, unfortunately, not alone in being an incredibly young rapper that has passed recently, actually, from what seems to be complications with with their own relationship with drugs or whatever. But it got me to thinking of the broader conversation about kind of drug abuse at that age. Like not I know a couple years ago there was a lot of serious discussions about Lil Wayne, and he was already prone for seizures, but he was drinking a concoction they call lean, and it's kind of promethazine based cough syrup and some kind of other codeine something, and they kind of put it in Sprite or something like that, and they just sip on it all day.
That sounds like some nasty ass cherry slow gin to me.
Yeah, but it kind of is that kind of a thing. But it was really.
Well, it'd be very potent.
Yeah, but it was really damaging a lot of young guys, and I guess it just got me to thinking about.
Well, it starts off with culture, doesn't it?
Well, it really got me to thinking about self-medication, and because I think a lot of these guys, they come from a reasonably traumatic past, and then they start self-medicating during those years, but even as they get money, they don't know how to deal with those stresses, because those are very different types of stresses, and those stresses can. We've seen, people jump off of buildings because of money problems. And so you go from, kind of literally just fearing for your life daily to, having, seemingly anything you want in the world. But now everybody you're the one taking care of them, whether it's, family members or huge entourages. Yeah. So it just got me to thinking about, just kind of mental health in a lot of these communities that give birth to these rap stars and whatever, and even athletes, because we saw what was Kardashian's
Lamar Odom.
Chloe, Lamar Odom, like he had a serious drug issue, and
it seems to be a big issue in the entertainment area.
Yeah,
it's like a big thing in entertainment, which starts to trickle down into just common everyday life for the rest of these kids because they get influenced by it. And that becomes the norm or the thing to do for high school kids and college kids, and for a guy to die at 27 because of possibly a drug overdoses and that kind of stuff. Not that that's not the first time we've
His
heard
organs
it.
failed.
Yeah, I mean it's not the first time.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't even think it was an
really toxic
overdose.
stuff in him that caused his organs to fail.
Yeah.
When your liver and kidney fails, it means you've been some serious toxic shit in your ass.
This drug thing is on a whole nother level now from 10, 20 years ago.
And with the opioids, let me chime in a little bit because I'm a former drug addict. And I was living on the streets of New Orleans and really having a hard go, and managed to pull myself out of it. It's part. When I say it's part of culture, it is because everybody you're hanging with is doing drugs.
Yeah.
And you become part of that culture. So when I was pretty low down, I was doing what that culture provided. Once I started making money, then the culture provided cocaine. Because cocaine's God's way of telling you have too much money. Okay?
You do all that's actually really profound because you don't hear broke people on cocaine. Like when it was broke people, it was crack. It wasn't coke though, because
No. We didn't do cocaine.
That's considered
when I was on
drug.
When I was on the street, we didn't do cocaine. We did the shit we could get our hands on. And so, eventually I was able to walk away from it all, and the blessing of God to do it. But I really think that when you're in your 20s, it's very difficult to not hang and be cool with what this dude's doing or that dude doing. You don't really have the ability always to be your own man at that point.
Right.
And I think that's what sucks a lot of these kids in.
For the rap community in general, it's pretty much you should be doing that. Like, who are you if you're not smoking or drinking or doing lean and all that?
Was it different in the rock and roll world?
No,
Absolutely not.
No, it's just different drugs.
We can go rock star after rock star after rock star after rock star that died.
Yeah, I mean it's all.
Or those who conquered it eventually.
Yeah, it's all different drugs, but it's to me kind of the same causings. There's a reason you're self-medicating, and some people can get a hold of it, and some people just wind up never being able to. And I don't want to go any deeper into this story now because they haven't even deemed a real cause of death on him.
Future podcast, maybe we could talk sometime about the new marijuana states.
I definitely do
and what
want
marijuana might lead into for some people, and then also the arcaneness of some of the marijuana laws, which they are arcane, but the law's going to end up dealing with a whole different thing. That would be a rather interesting subject to tackle someday.
So we want to move forward from the RIP, and we do want to say a true rest in peace to that young man, Fredo Santana, and move on to happy birthdays. I definitely saw there was a bunch of birthdays today. Most people I didn't know, a few I did know. I wasn't 100% sure if anybody out there in podcast land would know, but a couple of people that I thought that the table anyway would be interested in. One, Guy Fieri turns 50
which
today.
is a show my wife watches a lot.
Oh yeah, about to say.
And he's got a fun show.
Yeah, I thought it was older than that, but
he's got a great
I
personality.
thought he was younger than that.
Got a badass car too.
He's got a young kid.
Hey, it still works at that age, Jackie.
This is true, and I wasn't disparaging anybody
They even got pills to
in
make
that
it a little
age.
better nowadays,
Just most people don't have young kids at 50.
now I
They're
will
usually
say
a little older at that point.
Yeah,
I usually say the other name that I thought would be interesting to the table. Cognitively, I know he's this age, but he just doesn't seem like he should be this age to me, and that is DJ Jazzy Jeff. Is 53 today, and I just was thinking.
Did that blow your mind?
I was thinking Jazzy Jeff's 53. I'm thinking, literally in my mind, we're maybe 3 years apart in age. And no, he is
When Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff came out, they came out early MTV.
Oh yeah,
They were like middle 80s.
They're not.
That was fresh rap coming out. I mean, I don't want to call them a rap pioneer but anything, but they had a pop rap.
Right.
As far as pop rap, they were some of the first pop rappers.
It just seems like him and Dougie Fresh, they just don't age. It's like,
It just didn't seem like they aged like that.
They look the same today as they did, 20 years ago.
It seems to me, it seems like they look basically the same. But either way it goes, and maybe that's because you still see them on Fresh Prince TV show and reruns and
Still touring.
Yeah, still touring, all of that. So either way. I want to say, happy birthday to anybody out there that whose birthday is today. I don't want to get this wrong, but I was kind of looking at some analytics today, and I want to say, I want to give a shout out because I don't want to say it wrong. I want to give a shout out to Osaka, Japan, because apparently in the past week we got like 80 listens in Osaka, Japan. So I don't know what's going on in Osaka, but welcome out there in podcast land. And
Domo arigato.
And with that, we'll be right back. Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/Loft Party Podcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay, and we are back. But before we get too deep, we're going to play a quick party game. And the party game question today is, which would you pick? Being world-class attractive, a genius, or famous for doing something great? And we're going to start with Jackie.
What?
That's why you pay attention while we're doing the show. So which would you pick, being world-class attractive, a genius, or famous for doing something great?
I mean, if I'm a genius, I'm probably going to be famous for doing something great, so I'd rather be a genius.
Okay.
Maybe you already are saying that statement that way.
But you could be like that genius in the little yellow guys that bounce up and down, the Despicable Me. Mm-hmm. He was a genius, but he was evil.
Gru?
True, but he became good.
Okay.
What'd you say? Still not bothering me?
I'm getting the look, podcast land.
And
Jackie's really good with the look.
eventually everybody that is attractive ends up being just like everybody else at some point. So
And a lot of times they don't
I would
age
much
very
rather
Beauty does
have
fade.
my brain for a long time than whatever else.
Okay. Big Dave?
I'm going to trump Jackie. I'd rather be an attractive genius that does well by people. They can't go no further than that.
No, you're picking multiple things. I picked one on the base of most geniuses are famous for doing something great.
I'd rather be famous for doing something great. I'm a humanitarian and I'm all about helping people out.
Yeah, but you look at Bill Gates. I mean, he is a genius, and he is very well known for his philanthropy.
He did a very smart thing because he took time to make his money, and everybody criticized him because he wasn't doing anything for a long time. He took his time, and him and Melinda decided where they wanted to put their money, and then they put their money seriously towards it. Unlike the Clintons. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry.
You gotta make it all political.
The train is never late.
Adrian.
I gotta piggyback off Jackie on this one. I'd rather be a genius. Beauty fades and being famous is irrelevant overall. Whatever that great thing is, I think I can still be a genius and do something great just by being a genius. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, that kind of stuff.
All right.
Definitely a genius.
Help people's good thing.
Yeah, I've kind of vacillated back and forth on this one today, but I guess because I was vacillating because I wasn't putting those two things together. That you would, if you're a genius, you probably get famous for doing something great.
Yeah.
So in that case, I think I'll probably have to go with that one as well, because I was leaning toward being famous for doing something great, but I think you're right. If you're a genius, you probably will be famous for doing something great.
So I'm pretty smart.
Nobody said you weren't.
But sometimes you're really smart like that, you don't know where Minnesota is. You know, when God makes you that smart, he takes something away from you.
Yeah, they may not have a ton of common sense.
And he takes this, you look at a lot of genius people, and they're lacking something somewhere.
You don't always have the highest level of social skills.
Or your style may be a little off.
Yeah, you may wear turtlenecks and
Or have glasses with tape right here around the middle, you know.
But at the end of the
There's
day,
plenty of really smart people that are able to actually be socially, not socially awkward.
we're talking about genius.
Yes.
Who?
I'm talking about my wife who has a 162 IQ and doesn't know where Minnesota is.
Next podcast, I will have some names.
All right. With that, we'll be right back. Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger & Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers. 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do.